Okay, so I want to welcome everyone to this week's xEssential. Tonight's an exciting topic on creating a pixel archway. So you've got the floor, Garrett.
Okay, thanks. Yep, my name is Garrett Crabtree. This is my, I guess, second year working with pixels and xLights software. It's going to be pretty, I guess, quick and easy, and then I'll open up for questions and stuff. In this presentation, I'm going to show some pictures and videos of the archway in action, talk about the construction of the archway, discuss the pixels and the pixel hardware, how I modeled it in xLights, and then I'll go over some of the sequencing and effects that I used, and then we can do questions. And if you have questions, you can always just ask, whenever. Firstly, this is a little video of it. Okay, and another quick video. This kind of just shows I basically ran this on like a 30-second loop. It was not really sequenced to music. The music was playing on somebody else's system. So you can just see some of the effects that I had going. Some text. So nothing crazy as far as effects go, pretty simple. Pretty simple xLight stuff. And let's go skip here. And this is a little run through, and then I'm done with the videos here. Okay. So here's a picture. It has 21 strips, and it's about 16 feet long, and it's about 7 feet wide and 7 feet high. Here, just it was a pretty big hit as far as social media and people go. A lot of people wanted to get their pictures taken in it. All right, so the construction. I actually started this with a greenhouse frame and bought it on Amazon. The mega strips, they're actually Boscoil mega strips, and I took them off of my mega tree from last year. There's 100 pixels, spaced 2 inches, and I'm basically using two 10-foot PVC pipes. And I spray painted them black, and I think I ended up cutting about a foot off of each end, so they're about 18 inches. It was about 18 feet of PVC for each strip, and I coupled them together. But the frame, and I put them inside the frame, and the frame's really what kind of kept the hoops hooping. And got some pictures to show you. I used a lot of zip ties. Okay, I went over like, I don't know, I bought like a bag of 1,000, went through that. Of course, I was using zip ties for everything. This was our holiday laser show. So the main focus of the show was the lasers. This was kind of the archway to sort of entice people to get into it. But you can see I basically just, strap these to the PVC pipe. And you kind of have to do, I think I did like every second or third hole. At least I tried to it took, it got old pretty quick. So I started to try to, go with a little bit further apart holes, but then you'll start to see dimples and stuff. So if you really want to get it nice and flat, it's better to do, every other hole. So you can see how I had them laid in here. And I'm using, I'll go over the controller that I'm using here in a minute. But yeah, I basically just have them all strapped to this frame to keep them in place. And honestly, I really sort of eyeballed the spacing. I originally had intended on using 16 strips, but I basically didn't take into account that there are bars on the front and the back, and that actually leaves you with 7 in between each quadrant. There's another picture. So yeah, you can see how I coupled the PVC at the top, and this top bar is just where I sort of centered it and just made sure, I had 50 pixels on each side. It was not perfect by any means, but when it got dark, it really didn't, make any difference to anybody else. I was probably the only one who saw any imperfections there. Yeah, so just a lot of zip ties. Use these self-drilling. So I used some PVC glue to glue these in, and then I used the self-drilling screws in them as well, just to reinforce it. Didn't have any problem. Yeah, it's another picture. All right, so LED hardware, I am using a Falcon F16 V3 controller. I've got an expansion board on it and then a differential expansion as well. The differential expansion is actually feeding the receiver boards for those Boscoil presents that you saw and the LED tape on the shed outline. Running the show off FPP, had it scheduled to start at 9 p.m. and stop at 2 or 3 a.m. I think. Worked flawlessly for a month straight every night. So as far as ports, I have 32 ports coming out of the box, but again, I only am using 21. Here's my power supplies. Each 350 watt power supply is connected to each row of 8 drivers on the board. So I've got 2 for the F16 and 2 for the expansion board. Not very pretty. Didn't really have anywhere to put my box and my cables, so they kind of just sat on the ground, but they did fine. I have Ethernet waterproof adapters and all the necessary water proofing. So the ports that I used, I didn't actually use 1 through 8 and then 9 through 16. I actually used like 1 through 5 of the first row of the ports. Then I used like 9 through 12. I wanted to just kind of disperse the power between the 4 power supplies and not put them all on 2. I think I ran the show around 30%, 40%, which is what I had the Mega Tree at last year, and everything worked flawlessly. Any questions so far before I go into the xLights software? No? Okay. All right, as far as modeling, I did this in 3D. The arches, you can see here, I've got them each on their own universe with 100 nodes, 300 channels, just to make it easy. So you can see I went to like port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is essentially universe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I did 9 through 13. And then I did 17 through 21, and then 25 through 30. Like I said, just to disperse, the power through each of the 4 power supplies. This was not, exactly to scale. It was sort of just eyeballed. I was not sequencing the tunnel with the shed and the presents, so I didn't really care to make them exact. I didn't have, a whole lot of time on the project, so I kind of just did what I could. But I basically just used arches and then copied and pasted them until I got 21. And if we're going to the sequencer, you can see my little, I guess it was about 2 minutes and 20 seconds of a show that just looped over and over again. The most important thing here was probably for me using this render style. If we go to any one of these effects, like just the circles, you see I have this in vertical per mode, or vertical. I think I also use vertical per model too. Which I think kind of does almost the same thing. I'm not by any means an xLights expert. I mostly just kind of mess around until I come up with some good stuff. But if you see this on its default, it's picking up the circles kind of the way that xLights thinks it should, which is, I think, sort of like a matrix, if you just had a regular matrix. So what I wanted to do is look at it vertically. And that's ultimately how I got it. I mean, you got to kind of pick a perspective. And my perspective was really to entice people to come into the archway. So when I'm looking at, say, my text, I wanted it to read, and this is actually backwards, but if you want to read it like this, I wanted it to read, I know that's backwards too. Yeah, I think that actually ended up coming out. I actually had to do that because of the way I had the arches set up in the model. It wasn't, I think, exactly the perspective that I had set it up in physically. But it looked right on the screen, or it looked right in person, so that's the most important thing. But yeah, when this render style is really sort of like a perspective effect. You can, if I flip things horizontal or flip things vertical or rotate them, it's really just how it wants to be seen in that perspective. So yeah, used a lot of these strands, a lot of the morphing effect. And again, I'm going to use this horizontal per model for this to give me that effect. If I change it to vertical, you see that it's going from side to side. So pretty straightforward. Flames, again, if I have them set on default, it's like coming out of the middle there. So I want to go to vertical. And then if I wanted to, I could flip that to go the other way. So yeah, I don't think we need to really go through every single effect I did, unless there's something you want to, something somebody has a specific question on. but it's a really cool, prop. I am planning on making a bigger one this year. I'm going to be doing a haunted house drive-through in a cavern, and this has actually not been announced, so don't say anything. But it's going to be. I'm hoping 200 nodes per strip, and hopefully have about 32 rows. So I want it to be pretty big. I guess we could open this up for questions now if you want. I don't really have a whole lot more to go over. Is that something that I have to do myself?
Nope. So okay. The floor is open for questions for anyone that has any. I'll start with one. Okay. How did your crowds or folks, what did they do and how wow was it for them?
Well, it was to a point where, so on one side of the, just go back to this real quick. On one side of the arch was an ice skating rink. And I don't know if you can really see it in any of these pictures. On this side was a sort of pop-up ice skating rink that they built into this area. And on this side was our laser dome, which is a geodome with laser show inside. And it was getting crowded on each side, and people were having to wait for everyone to take pictures. So somebody would take pictures and in the middle of it, and we'd have sometimes 10, 15 people waiting their turn, so it got a little hectic at times. But if our crowds would have been a lot bigger, it would have been a problem. But it wasn't. It wasn't a crazy year for us, so not too bad.
So this is a commercial venue?
This venue it's actually a live concert venue called Paris Town Hall. And there is a little sort of courtyard, and that's where they put the ice skating rink. Ice skating rink is about half the size of like a pro rink. And then we put our dome on the other side, which is actually in the parking lot of a restaurant. So yeah, it was a commercial area, and it was sponsored by corporate people. So yeah,
as opposed to residential. That's all I was asking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was definitely a commercial happening. So we charge tickets.
The other question is, how does that store? How small of a package does it become when it's stored? Is it 16 arches or?
Yeah, so it's 16 arches, and I ultimately had to take all the strips off and take apart the PVC. I didn't have a choice because I only have a 10-foot van, so I couldn't fit the 18 feet, pieces in there. I wasn't really planning on rebuilding it, so that's why I did that. If I had, I probably would have kept them at least together somehow, But yeah, storing it, you really, I didn't have much of a choice but to take it apart.
Yeah.
So there's a couple.
I have one comment for you. When you're looking to split the power, don't split it by going 1 through 5. Go at 4 through 9.
Oh, okay.
That way, because if you do it that way, xLights will upload it correctly. If you try to skip and leave blanks in the middle, xLights doesn't like that, because I have to do that with my Megatree.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I just had to basically manually go in there in my layout and tell it which ports to use.
Yeah, it won't split it, but you can, if you start, so you spread it yourself, but don't start at 1, start at like 4.
Okay, good point.
Yeah, Jim, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep, there's a couple questions here in chat. So the cement blocks.
Right.
Right. So how did you stabilize the structure? Does the concrete blocks along the pathway play a role?
Yeah, so this pathway just ended up being sort of perfect size for this greenhouse frame. The sidewalk was like almost exactly 7 foot. And the pathway there, as you can see, was pretty, I think it was like 20 feet total. But so they have these concrete, blocks in here for the actual event space, that are permanently there. But yeah, it does want to flare out with those PVC. So I had to get some concrete blocks and put them on the sides, on the other side, so they wouldn't flare out and kind of stay in place. And it didn't take much, I guess those are about 75 pounds each, but yeah, that's also a concern. I mean, you either want to stake it into the ground or have something to kind of hold that in place. The frame is relatively, thin. I mean, it really sort of lightweight metal that could, bend pretty easily. So,
and then the strips, are they just the typical Boscoyo strips?
Yeah, they're the typical Boscoyo, the mega strips, the higher density ones. And like I said, I took them straight off the mega tree that I had last year.
Mm-hmm.
And just regular 12-volt nodes, nothing too crazy. I mean, you could build this any way you could think of. This is just kind of the way I thought of. I thought, it definitely needs some sort of frame. I think that's going to make it easier for you than having to mount each individual arch. So greenhouse frame is about the right, structure.
Someone's asking if you were to do it again and starting from scratch, would you do it a different way or build it a different way? Any type of looking back and thought about changing it around?
Actually, no. I think this ended up being about as simple as I could get it. I wanted to get this up. I was sort of rushed on it. I wanted to get it up in like 2 or 3 days. And I think it did. It ended up taking me, I don't know, about 2 nights. It's just time consuming, strapping all those strips onto the PVC and spray painting all the PVC. But ultimately, I don't really see there being an easier way of doing it. It's going to be time consuming no matter how you swing it,
Yep. Did you have to mold the PVC to the arch shape?
No, I bent it, they're straight pieces, but they bend pretty easily, and it wasn't that wasn't a big deal. It was,
Okay.
The thing that took the longest was just actually attaching the strips to the PVC. It was just a lot of zip ties.
What's your favorite effect in the model or what do people wowed by most?
That's a good question. I think people were mostly just wowed by the whole thing. I don't think that I didn't really hear anyone saying they, liked a certain effect. I personally like these tracing effects. I think it's really cool. One of my ideas for this haunted cave that we're going to do is that these tracers are going to be going back and forth, and it's going to be sort of the entrance to an alien spaceship, I think is my idea. And I'm going to have some like loud, sub-frequency noises doing boom, boom, boom. And I think it just looks really cool personally. That's, simple but effective for me.
Okay.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know the viewing is based on your perspective. The videos that you're taking walking up to it look really good, but when you're inside it, did it seem more bare?
Yeah, so that's part of the whole design is that when you go into it, you're really sort of losing resolution, right? You don't really see the shapes very easily. I would, love to have, I guess, to answer the question, what would I've done if I could have do it over? I would have probably doubled the rows, just made it higher resolution if I had more time. So it would look, you would be able to sort of discern images when you're inside it. But yeah, being inside it, it's really just a lot of kind of flashing lights. And that's really one thing you have to take into account, that, I think each row is spaced about 7 inches apart, or no, about 10 inches apart, I think. So yeah, when you get in there, you're going to lose that perspective, that resolution. So that's really why I had to design it from the outside, because I was really just trying to get people from the ice rink to my laser dome, honestly. So, yeah, if you go inside, you're not going to be able to read the text, that kind of thing. That's a good point.
Thank you.
So someone's asking if they could space it out further. So if they added 2 frames, but I think your point is that if you shortened it rather than a 10-inch span, more like a 5 or 6 would have been a little more effective and more wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I originally intended on doing all 32 rows from the mega tree, but I just did not have time.
Right.
Hey,
Cool.
Garrett.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, did you see any bigger frames? And I was just thinking more along the lines of doing a driveway arch as opposed to like a walkway arch.
Yeah, they do have some pretty big frames on Amazon. I didn't really look a whole lot of or very many more places, but yeah, they've got some pretty big frames on there that were. I think some of them are like 12 feet high. I don't know if that would probably fit over a driveway, but they get kind of pricey. It's I wish, I could really find a way to inexpensively make some arches out of, metal that, that sit in the ground, and stay and don't get blown over. But, how making props is, it gets expensive. But yeah, they had some, I think they were like a couple $100.
Arch over my driveway currently.
Yeah.
I use PVC. I built it. I'm actually changing over from regular LEDs to pixels this year. I'm trying to figure out how to lay it out like you laid it out. So
yeah, I know. I know the ways that I would ideally do it if I had the money, but it's kind of
I'm gonna use the bus coil.
You're gonna use the strip?
Chroma mat spacing.
Oh,
Not
okay,
the strip.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use the whole mesh. I'm gonna use right now my estimates are it's gonna be 6 panels, and each panel is gonna be 18 feet long. It's gonna go up and over my driveway.
Okay, so you're gonna basically have just a giant matrix tunnel then.
Yeah, but I'm doing it on the outside, not the inside.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna face mine outside. I just don't know if I want to do anything on the inside.
So the question, chat.
If you turn them instead of facing out, I mean, with the matrix it's hard to do, but if you were to you were strap a pixel to a piece of metal sideways, you can go down the whole length of it, and so you'd have the light on the outside and the inside, so it would just be different. That's the only thing I could think of if you wanted lights inside as well.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about doing like regular bus soil single strip on all the uprights, because I have like 12 uprights on the inside, so just to give it some sort of light on the inside.
Yeah, I'd say if people are going to be driving through, you definitely want them on the inside.
They're gonna be walking through.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to have them on the inside and the outside. It's just really a matter of,
money.
time and money. Yeah.
Well, I think it did what you wanted. You said it was just to attract people into there, and I think it's a good job. I mean, you know,
It is an awesome job.
unless you're a drone, you know, or whatever, people aren't gonna generally stand in there like that. If you're driving through, it's going to be kind of slow and quick. But you know, I mean, the whole point is to go through that into a bigger thing. So,
right, yeah. For the purpose, I didn't have it. I mean, there's nothing I could complain about. It did everything I wanted it to do.
I think it was a great feature for what you did, and it'd be good to have it at home, you know, for people to walk, you know, too. So.
Yeah. Someone's asking, was there any damage from people picking at it?
No, it did a really good job. You know, there were a few days where we had some pretty high winds, and the way that the strips, so make sure you pick which side you want your strips to be on the PVC, because as far as where the wind is blowing, because it will sort of like blow them inward, if that makes sense. Some of them, I actually had them on different sides of each PVC, so it wasn't perfect, and it wasn't bad. It was basically like something where I would have to go out there and just move them with my finger, just straighten them back out. Take me 2 minutes, you know.
You could probably basket weave. I don't know if you've looked at that or thought of that, you know.
Right, yeah. That's another idea. And I mean, you know, some of the kids would go up and sort of move the strips if they could, tug on them, but I mean, they were on there pretty good. And like I said, I mean, I would have to just go by and eyeball them and just sort of, you know, readjust them and space them out. But they stuck pretty well with the zip ties, so that was no problem. Definitely a lot easier with wind than the Mega Tree was.
Yeah. So someone's asking about PEX strips, you know, the PEX pipe, sorry, and just put in there. Any thoughts on doing it that way?
I don't know what PEX strips are.
It would diffuse the light better.
Yeah, it's just PEX pipe, like it maybe a 2-inch translucent pipe.
Oh, that, right.
You know, you could put strips or even bullets.
What people make normal little arches out of.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, I definitely would. You know, that definitely came up in my mind, but you know, it was really just a matter of time. And
it would have added a lot of time because it's got to drill the holes in it, or you know, I guess it could zip tie. But
I mean, the original idea was I was thinking about drilling holes in the PVC and sticking the you know, the bullets through, but God, that would have taken, you know, 100 hours.
And this was a one-time use for you, you said too. So I think you did a great job.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So any final questions?
You had modeled it as 21 arches. Would there have been? Did you consider modeling it as a matrix of 21 high and 100 long? Yeah,
exactly. I thought about that too, and I don't think there would really be much of a difference. You know, maybe just a little bit as far as how the effects, you know, are translated. I really just wanted to do it that way because I had never used the 3D feature, and I just wanted to do it in 3D just to make it just so it looked cool. But yeah, I thought of just throwing on a matrix and doing the same thing. And I think that you could probably do that and get away with it, and it would have just as good of a turnout. But that's I definitely thought about that.
So you modeled it as arches.
Arches, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I basically just took an arch and copied and pasted it 21 times, and then, but again, I think I could have easily just have made a matrix out of, you know, a 21 rows or, you know, 21 high, you know, of 100 nodes. And,
yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. Because obviously, I'm trying to do mine in 3D now, and I'm like sitting here, I'm like, do I do it as matrices or do I do it as like arches? Because obviously, I'm using matrices, but you know,
can you vector a matrix on the screen to make it look like the arch like that? I mean, I don't think what he did with the arches is pretty ingenious to use that model to make this, because you can't take a matrix and arch it over.
Exactly. That's where I
Right.
had my
I think about how the effects would come out if I just did a matrix, how it would look. I don't know what the difference would be. I mean, you could try it both ways, and see. Again, I wanted to use the 3D feature and make it as accurate as possible, so I did it that way.
Okay. So someone's got a question about your laser dome. I don't know if you want to, I don't know if you have a quick video of that or want to mention anything about that,
Give him another xEssentials.
Well, I think we do have a laser one coming, but I'm not positive. I can't remember.
I did a laser one last year, and I talked about the laser dome a little bit. If you go to Holiday Laser Dome Louisville on my Facebook page, there should be plenty of videos and pictures. I don't know if I can really dig up where anything is right now off my computer real quick. So that's probably the easiest thing to do. You can also go to the Holiday Laser Dome Instagram page. There should be plenty of pictures and videos. It's a 36-foot diameter geodesic dome. We've got 6 medium power lasers in there. They're professional lasers doing a holiday show. It's about a 12-minute show, synced to music. If you want to DM me, I can give you some more stuff. I can send you some better videos and stuff. I don't really think I could dig anything up too quickly.
Cool. Okay. Anything else?
Hey Garrett, how strong or how durable is that greenhouse frame? I was thinking about building a frame out of like 3/4 inch, the conduit stuff that they use for electrical. Would that be too thin?
Conduit? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that I wouldn't say this metal frame would be as structurally sound as the conduit would be personally. It's like I said, this one was pretty thin. I mean, you could probably bend this metal with your hands if you tried. It's made to put a tent over, so it's not really meant to be bearing a whole lot of weight. But for this purpose, I mean, the PVC kind of helped it. I mean, made it a little bit more structurally sound. Also, the pipes kind of helped reinforce the frame as well. But right. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to, I wouldn't build my house out of it.
It seems like it'd want to like bow outward, so I just wasn't sure if like EMT would be too thin or it would
EMT would probably work pretty well.
Okay.
I think EMT would be stronger than what this stuff was made out of.
Oh, excellent. Thanks.
Yeah.
Someone in chat suggesting top rail for hurricane fence would be a good choice. So, okay. Well, thank you very much. It was an awesome presentation. A lot of great ideas for those that are interested in a walkway arch.
Cool.
Thanks, Garrett.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you.
Pretty cool.
All right.